Welcome everybody to the Dobsonian Power Live Show. Today a special guest, very important guest. It's Avi Loeb, a gift from him and me to you, all of you that are here and that love him. I have to warn you, before the live stream I had 2 power outages. I will do the live stream anyway with my solar power generators. I warned my community about that, but no problem. However, if it happens during the live stream, it can happen, we never know. Don't go away. I quickly restart everything. I just have to unplug all my setup and plug it to the solar power generator. It's very important. I will take the opportunity as they hit me with this. It's very important to have a solar power generator at home. This is the one I have 5 of those with solar panels. You can have a portable solar panel. Important for blackouts. And now the special guest with us, Dr. Avi Loeb. Avi Loeb, thank you very much for being here. It's really a pleasure for me and my community, the explorers, to have you here today.
My great pleasure, and I'm honored to be in your company.
Thank you so much. Avi Loeb, I've been watching since July with my telescopes here, the 3i Atlas live, raw images, just not pictures, just watching it, very excited with it, all the days that I could. But I'm a simple amateur astronomer. I'm a regular citizen. I'm not a space agency or other institution that should provide that information for us. And everybody is wondering, why are they feeling like pretending that it's not important? At the first moment, they said it's a comet without any explanation and without knowing it. And now the most important, they keep the high-rise images that are so important, a 30-kilometer pixel resolution, with them and ghosting you. What's happening here?
Yeah, I'm really surprised by that because science is a privilege. We should allow ourselves to be curious about things in nature and rely on data guiding us. So it's all about collecting data and learning from it. But experts very often they base their reputation, their stature on past knowledge, and they want to pretend they know the answer in advance. And they speak as an authority telling you what the answer is. I'm trying to advocate humility. We are getting objects from outside the solar system. We shouldn't assume that they are the same as the rocks that we have in our backyard. Just like getting objects from the street. One of them might be a tennis ball thrown by a neighbor. That's all I'm saying. Let's be curious, especially when the object doesn't seem to look like the typical kind of rock that we have in our backyard. So 3i Atlas has 9 anomalies according to my list on medium.com. I keep providing updates about it. The best image we could have had of 3i Atlas was obtained on October 3rd, or October 2nd, October 3rd, 2025 by the HiRISE camera on board the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. We know that these images were taken. They're held hostage to the government shutdown in the US. Now, I ask, how difficult is it to just share that data? It should be straightforward. A graduate student at the University of Arizona could do that. The principal investigator is a professor at the University of Arizona. Now, of course, they might be under contract and they have to wait until NASA gives them the green light. But it just doesn't make sense to hold science hostage to the politics of the day. Why? Because this is time-sensitive data that could guide the way we do the observations in the coming weeks. It's something that should be analyzed so that perhaps it will affect the way we analyze future data or collect future data. Science is based on transparency, on sharing of all the information we have. And here we have the best images that we can hope for, because the object 3i Atlas came within 30 million kilometers of Mars. So it was very close to the HiRISE camera, much closer than it was from the Hubble Space Telescope when the previous highest resolution image was obtained. So we should get 30 kilometers per pixel in the HiRISE image compared to more than 100 kilometers per pixel in the Hubble image. So it's a significant improvement. And also we are looking at the object from the side because it was on its path towards the sun, and Mars was looking at it sideways. So it's new information, and I just cannot understand. I sent a request to the principal investigator of the high-res camera team at the University of Arizona. I didn't get a reply. I communicated with Representative Anna Paulina Luna, and she submitted a letter to the acting administrator of NASA and Sean Duffy, and he did not respond, nor to me, not to her letter. He instead responded to Kim Kardashian, who inquired about 3i Atlas. And I wrote afterwards that I very much welcome Kim Kardashian to my research team because she shows curiosity. You know, that's what should drive us all, rather than pretend and lecture the public about what we know. You know, comets are unusual, comets are different from each other. This could be a comet of a type that we've never seen before, but it's a comet. Instead of doing that, let's just be curious, collect as much data as possible, and figure it out. Why do we need to show, to pretend that we are expert, to surrender to the politics of the day in preventing the dissemination of data? You know, that goes beyond me. I simply don't, maybe I'm naive, and, you know, this is the way people are, but I don't accept that. I think we should all be straightforward and try to figure out things. And if we allow some possibilities to be on the table, then if someone has an issue with that, show me the data, explain those anomalies, and we will move on. It's not about personal conflict. It's not about attacking me for saying this or saying that. It's more about figuring out what 3i Atlas is. That should be the objective. Let's keep our eyes on the ball.
Yeah, but we, and I say we because me and many others, it's suspicious. We can't avoid to feel that it's suspicious to see, for instance, this post here to Kim Kardashian, and it's even a benevolent post because he explained her, but she's smart and he's explaining her. So Sean Duffy, like to a kid, like 3 equals the third, I equals you know, and I bet that Kim Kardashian listened all people saying, oh God, this should be an alien or something, this is very weird. And that was the meaning of that post, asking to the NASA administrator. But something that I get with other people annoyed is, why did they didn't answer your letter that is super important from a representative of a Republican Congresswoman, Luna, and instead is on X answering this kind of posts? Why are they hiding it? It's the big question that we want. The motive, why are they hiding it? Should be a motive here.
Well, it's interesting because you might say, well, he responded to Kim Kardashian because it's a public outreach opportunity for NASA to show that, you know, to show to people that NASA is at the frontier of science. But at the same time, not allowing the image to be disseminated, to be shared with scientists, is also a public outreach, opportunity. If they don't do it, they miss that opportunity, and therefore it's actually worse because they've been holding it for hostage for over a month now. And I'm just saying, for the same reason that you think that you should, I have no issue with him replying to Kim, but I would argue that there is no reason, obvious reason, why data that exists on a computer at the University of Arizona cannot be shared with other computers. That doesn't require much electricity, much investment of funds. It doesn't violate anything in the narrative of NASA. All it requires is sharing something that already exists. It doesn't require work. And by the way, NASA does release data continuously about other things. It's not as if they stopped operations. We have zero data coming from NASA. Even the rovers have some images that are being shared all the time. And the European Space Agency, obviously, they were transparent. Within a matter of a week, they released what they have. The other nations that are not releasing any interesting information maybe is because they don't have assets similar to the high-res camera. So I don't fully understand it. I think it's some people are playing politics with the government shutdown, but it's not. I don't think it's the right approach to dealing with science.
Right. It's an hypothesis because we don't know. You don't know why they ghosted you basically,
Right.
and
Right.
you know that just a phone call could solve that.
Yeah,
But
they could have also explained. In other words, I could have gotten a message saying, look,
message.
this is a result of a government shutdown, and by contract, we are not obligated, we are not allowed by law to do this or that. I didn't get an explanation, nor did the public. They could have put some kind of a statement why this is not happening. Now, it's most likely related to the government shutdown. I don't think they're hiding it because of the content of the data. And presumably, as soon as the government shutdown is over, we will get access. It's just unfortunate that it's delayed because we could have used it. I have a collaborator where we were planning to analyze this data and infer what it means. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do that.
Yeah, but it's highly suspicious that they hide those important, because it's super important. All scientists, not only Avi Loeb, for the people that don't understand very well how this works, all scientists will grab those pictures and start working over them, doing scientific papers, the ones that do scientific papers. Others will be on networks, but the real scientists will be working over those pictures. The thing is, that's an hypothesis, and we work over hypotheses. That's an hypothesis. Maybe it's some kind of playing politics here. It's viable, but there's another hypothesis. Imagine that they watch the team that grabbed the first ones. There should be a team there in Arizona that grabbed the first images, raw images. They downloaded them and they watched them, and maybe they saw something that surprised them. Maybe something, for instance, like this. I'm not claiming anything. This is a picture that I took pointing to GPL Horizons coordinates from NASA nearby the sun. And I just found this. I can't claim this is 3 Atlas, of course, because I don't have stars to say to me the exact coordinates. It was in the field of view, and people were grabbing this picture. Imagine just a supposition that something weird like this was in front of them, and they call Sean. And they called Sean, and Sean watched the picture or the pictures and said, "Oh man, this looks like a freaking alien spaceship. Who else knows about this? Nobody. Shut up, don't tell anything, I will shield this, and then we'll see what to do." That is also a viable hypothesis, and people speculate over that because they simply don't talk.
Right. Now, I prefer to give the benefit of the doubt and say it's just the clumsy behavior of bureaucrats that they want to maintain, government shutdown, and therefore do not share data. That is all along my approach, just because I don't want to blame them of doing it on purpose. And we will find out eventually, because the government shutdown will be over. They will have no excuse at that point but to release it. So in the meantime, I should say in the coming weeks, it should be really interesting, because 3I Atlas showed the non-gravitational acceleration just a few days ago. That's based on data from ALMA, the millimeter wave observatory in Chile, that found it to be separated, offset by 4 arc seconds from the expected path. And that means that it showed some non-gravitational acceleration. And then there were some solar observatories that looked at it close to the sun and found it to get extremely bright, much faster than comets that were looked at before from the solar system. And also it became bluer than the sun. Now, of course, a natural way of explaining all of these facts is to say, oh, it lost a lot of mass as a result of coming close to the sun, being warmed up by the solar radiation. I calculated that in order to explain the non-gravitational acceleration, the object must have lost, if it's a comet, a natural comet, it must have lost at least 1/6 of its mass. And that's a substantial amount of mass. There should be a very massive cloud of gas around it, which weighs at least 5 billion tons. And we should see it clearly. It will be very bright and massive once the object comes out of the direction of the sun, so we can look at it from Earth. Right now, until recently, it was hiding behind the sun when it came closest to the sun. So this would be an easy way to tell the nature of the object, because if it lost 17% of its mass, we are not just ablating the skin of the object, we are actually ablating a significant fraction of the mass of the object. So it means we are getting a probe closer into the object. So we will know if it's just an icy rock or something else. If we don't see that amount of massive cloud of gas, very bright coma around it, then the question is, what gave it that non-gravitational acceleration? Was it some propulsion device, like some engine? And maybe that was also responsible for the blue color that we obtained. So I think the next few weeks are really exciting, irrespective of what happens with the high-res camera, because you can't hide information these days about something in the sky. We are not in the days of Galileo Galilei, where he developed the first astronomical telescope, looked at Jupiter. Nobody else did that. And then the Vatican was able to suppress his voice by putting him in house arrest. Now you can't do that. There were already 227 observatories around the globe that looked at Tri-Atlas. And as soon as it comes away from the sun, in a week or two, hundreds of observatories will look at it, including the Webb telescope eventually in December and the Hubble telescope. So we will get plenty of data in the coming weeks. And the government has no way of affecting the dissemination of that data.
We'll see, because if in the past they were burning people, right now they burn them socially. And if in the past they enclosure people at home, like Galileo Galilei, now they do that. They put you and people like you against the wall.
But you can do it to me. That's no problem. But it's not. First of all, it's not about me. It's about this object. And there are many people in other parts of the world that have telescopes. So you just can't go around the world and suppress all these telescopes from looking at the Tri-Atlas. So it's impossible. And therefore, we will know what this object is, irrespective of what is being said about me.
Love it. But there's another thing that about that non-gravity acceleration that people is speculating a lot. And it was after that Michio Kaku strategically 2 days before the perihelion coming to say that if the object accelerate after the perihelion or during and after the perihelion, that will mean that it's probably a spaceship. But I saw your analysis with that astrophysicist on NASA that was kindly doing the analysis from GPL horizons, and we can see that acceleration. I'm not a scientist, so I ask you. There's the A1, the A2, and the A3. The A1 and A2 have numbers,
right?
And the A3 it's 0.
Right.
Does that mean that the movement of Tri-Atlas during the perihelion moved left and right and accelerated, but not up and down?
Yes.
What does that mean, that study?
Well, it means that there is no vertical acceleration outside of the plane of the orbit. Now, in case of a natural comet, the side of the comet that faces the sun gets the heat and loses mass. So you don't expect much vertical acceleration, but sometimes comets develop jets that are pointed sideways, and you do get acceleration in all 3 dimensions. In this case, it was not. So, and I actually corresponded with the person who did the analysis, and he said that he's waiting to get access to the full data set. And it would be easy for us to measure the location, the position of the object in the sky within the coming weeks, because as it moves, the deviation from the expected path would be even more significant. And the reason that JPL updated with these non-gravitational terms is just to allow us to forecast where it will be. So as it moves along, we will get more data points, and then we'll first of all test this forecast. Also, we will be able to tell if the acceleration intensifies or is getting smaller. I mean, it will be really interesting, because a technological object will not necessarily stop accelerating. And on the other hand, a comet, as soon as it's not exposed to as much heat from the sun, it will lose much less mass. So most of the acceleration, most of the boost will come closest to the sun. And I think that the coming weeks will be key, and we should find out. What bothered me about HiRISE is not so much that we will not know what the object is. It's just that this is not the way that science should be conducted. It's supposed to be based on transparency, and also scientists should be open-minded rather than very dogmatic and basically ridiculing any alternatives to what they think the object is likely to be. And the reason I say that is, if it happens to be technological, it would have huge implications for humanity. And even if you assign a small probability for that, you must consider that possibility. And that's what, very often intelligence agencies consider rare events that have a small likelihood, because even if they have a small likelihood, they must be, we should not be surprised when they happen. However, in the context of science, scientists are used to adapting the most likely explanation. And that works. If you deal with an exploding star at the edge of the universe, it will have no impact on humanity. And obviously, if you are wrong, then nothing bad happens. So it makes a lot of sense for scientists usually to subscribe to the most likely explanation, but not in a case where you have a visitor to your backyard. In that case, if you are wrong and the visitor enters through your front door, that's too bad, okay, because it has huge implications. So my argument is that we should always keep on the table the possibility that interstellar objects might be technological, and then collect as much data as possible, especially about those that show anomalies, those that do not line up with what we thought about comets and asteroids.
Yeah, it feels like we are sinners because we create a possibility or consider the possibility of alien life out there. But coming back to the question about the acceleration. So what you said, and I understood, was that, in fact, it moved left and right through Atlas. So it was apart from the sun, and it accelerated, right?
Right.
But not up and down according to NASA data. But what people want desperately to know, and they don't tell us, is what does that mean in terms of direction? So did it change a lot? Is it possible now that we'll be closer to Jupiter, for instance?
Yeah.
Because it has...
So I actually did the calculation and found that the reported non-gravitational acceleration does not amount to much of a shift in the trajectory. Over a period of a month, it will shift by of order 10 times the radius of the Earth. That's all. So that's very small compared to the Earth-Sun separation. So we are talking about a small, it's only 4 arc seconds that they noticed the deviation at 4 arc seconds, which, an arc second is about 5 times 10 to the minus 6. It's less than 10 minus 5. It's a very small correction that they noticed in angle. And also, since the object is roughly at a distance of, twice the Earth-Sun separation, it also amounts to a small amount of displacement. And so we're talking about small displacement at this time, but it may, we just have one set of data points, and we have to watch. Maybe that displacement will grow, and that's what I think the future data will clarify. At the moment, the acceleration is not big enough for it to change course significantly and get very close to Jupiter. But let's watch and see where it's heading. That would be really interesting if it comes close to Jupiter for 2 reasons. One, that that may indicate that it has a target, and second, it will allow the Juno spacecraft near Jupiter to observe it much better. Because I published a paper saying that Juno should try to get close to intercept 3 Atlas, and that requires an amount of fuel that Juno had to start with, but it used most of the fuel. So unfortunately, it won't be able to intercept with 3 Atlas. It could have, in principle, if it had all the fuel that it started with. But I spoke with the principal investigator of the Juno mission. Here is another NASA mission, and the principal investigator was very forthcoming, and I had exchanges with him. And in this case, he told me that they will use the radio antenna that they have on Juno also to check for radio transmission. Because one of the anomalies of 3 Atlas is that the WOW signal from 1977 came from roughly the same direction in the sky as the arrival direction of 3 Atlas, within 9 degrees. And therefore, I alerted the radio observers and asked them to look at 3 Atlas to see if there's any radio transmission from it. And I was told by them that they are monitoring it. So hopefully we'll see some data reported from radio observatories as well. We don't expect radio emission from a rock.
Okay, right. So for the people that don't understand this very well, Juno is a probe that is around Jupiter that can be, and it will end the mission now going into smashing into Jupiter.
Well, it was supposed to smash into Jupiter in September, a month and a half ago. And because of that, I wrote a paper saying, "Don't kill it; it can be useful." And again, Representative Anna Paulina Luna wrote a letter to the head of NASA, Sean Duffy, and encouraged them to fund it at least until March 2026, when 3 Atlas will come close to it. So at the moment, as far as I know, it's still alive, and hopefully it will take data on 3 Atlas.
Hold on. Are you telling me that it was programmed to finish right now?
Actually in mid-September. That was the original timing. And they wanted to give it a kick so that it falls into Jupiter and gets destroyed. And I said, don't give it a kick towards Jupiter, give it a kick away from Jupiter just to intercept 3 Atlas, which was possible if it had enough fuel. It could have collided with 3 Atlas. But unfortunately, they used most of the fuel, so they cannot get very close to 3 Atlas, but they can still observe it. And as of now, as far as I know, this mission is still alive.
Yeah, but what you are telling me is that while they are pretending it's not important and not showing any data to the public, they listened to you and the letter from the rep Luna, and they act over Juno. So now they consider to use Juno to watch 3 Atlas in the future, in November, I guess, in March, right?
In March 16th. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm sure they are listening to what I say. The question is, are they doing what I say? And in the case of Juno, it looks like it's alive, so that's a good thing. And I wish they also listened about the high-rise images, but apparently someone over there chose, not to do it. And I don't know why, because I didn't get any information.
Yeah, but it's not only. Yeah. We had the hypothesis already over the table. Now let people to pick the one that they think it's more viable. But it's not only high rise. The other day when I asked you about this, and you told me that you didn't have information. Look, this is Psych raw images from NASA website, and I placed here the Psych. For the people that don't know, the Psych is a probe that was designed to go to Psych asteroid in 2029. And it has a good camera designed to watch that asteroid, as far as I could understand.
Yes.
And the closest approach of 3 Atlas to this probe was on the 4th of September. So way before the NASA shutdown. And I was here searching for those pictures because I know they are available to the public. But interestingly, between the one of the 1st of September to the 7th, which is a Sunday, so Monday to Sunday, all that week is empty. But if I come here and I change the date to, for instance, to the 7th towards the 14th, for instance, they pop from 2 days after, so the 8th of September. We have already pictures here. I can't avoid, Dr. Loeb, to find this again suspicious, because I don't see anybody with the information from this probe, and it was before the shutdown. So the shutdown is not an excuse here. What do you have to say about this?
This is interesting. I have no inside information. I cannot add to what you just described. So we will have to get the answers from NASA.
Okay, and there's another thing also, because not only that, but if you go to Hera mission, which is a probe from European Space Agency, and if you go to X account there, we have here posts about, so this one was on October the 7th, and they have posts here about rocks and stuff. They are very interesting. However, meanwhile, they have the Hera was programmed from the 25th of October until the 1st of November, so already done, to analyze the invisible tail that this object has, and also Europa Clipper from NASA from the 30th of October to the 6th of November. That will be in 2 days. And no pictures as well, no information. Do you have any information about this tail, this invisible tail or whatever they cocked?
Oh, I don't have information, but it may well, you have to realize that it takes time for them to get the data from the observatory that is far away from Earth, and then it takes them time to process it. So it may well be within the range of delay that is reasonable. One thing I should mention is the JUICE mission the JUICE spacecraft that is on its way to Jupiter and was launched by the European Space Agency is probably taking data right now this week of 3 Atlas, and it's using its communication dish as a sun shield, so it will not be able to transmit it. Even though they will collect the data, it will take some time, maybe a few weeks, until it transmits the data and we can see it. So there are situations like that, and so far the European Space Agency was relatively straightforward as far as I can tell.
Yeah, the JUICE should be today. As far as I understood, should be today.
This week, yeah.
We can say and we can, soften this, but the thing is that, for instance, ESA was condescending, okay, but what they showed us was simply this, and this rose even more questions because to the public, this image is, or this footage is is very weird. Come on, Dr. Loeb. Everyone was looking at this and thinking on the old machine of the gaming of Space Invaders and things like that.
One thing to keep in mind, the picture was taken by a camera that doesn't have very good resolution. It's only 13.5 centimeters in diameter compared to HiRISE, which is 50 centimeters. So that's that's why the HiRISE image is so much better. So what you're seeing is the pixelization of the bright source of light, and of course there are fluctuations that result from the observing conditions and the sensitivity of the recording device there. So I won't read too much into this. It's just a low signal to noise kind of image, and that's unfortunate because we really want high resolution images that in fact we do have. It's just that they are not shared with us.
Okay. Okay, we buy it, and people don't think that he was suppressed and now he's working for the system and things like that. It's true that he's a very low resolution camera. That's why we want those freaking pictures from HiRISE.
Exactly.
The orbiter that he was and he still is around Mars, that was with as Avi Loeb said, with a good plan from a side to take those pictures with high resolution so they can give us more clarity about what this object is to the public, which they don't do. They do through Kim Kardashian, and also to give scientists, the ones that work over the data, a way to understand what this object is. For some reason, they are silent. Another thing, Dr. Loeb, that I was wondering is, we had 3i Atlas in the 1st of July. Okay, we saw it the first time. We noticed it in the 1st of July. We had on May already, but that was after the fact. And we have very often, and for instance, like the R2 Swan, this comet that is around the Earth now, or near, it popped from nowhere behind the sun. And we have oftentimes asteroids that can be dangerous, and that just at the last minute they pop behind the sun because we don't have the clarity, we can't see behind the sun. And that raises one question. If 3i Atlas was discovered in 1st of July, and if it was an object that was dangerous to the Earth, and 4 months to react, are we prepared for that?
No.
And it seems like they are not enhancing too much that part, but we feel like we can trust them for security. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of preparing for a potential near-Earth object, the assumption all along for decades was that we need to search for objects in the solar system. These are rocks that are the building blocks of the planets that were left behind from the construction project of the solar system. So we have a lot of rocks in the main asteroid belt, and every now and then, one of them gets into a trajectory that can bring it close to Earth. And we want to protect ourselves, so because we know that dinosaurs were killed by such an asteroid that was roughly the size of Manhattan Island 66 million years ago. So we are smarter than dinosaurs. We can find them before they arrive to Earth. And so the US Congress tasked NASA to find 90% of all the objects that come close to Earth that are bigger than a football field, 140 meters. And that's why the Pan-STARRS telescope was built in Hawaii. That's why the Rubin Observatory in Chile was constructed to find most of those. And the thing is that the thinking was all about objects in the solar system that move around, and we can forecast how they move because we see them. However, if you're dealing with interstellar objects, it's a completely different population that you have no alert system to other than something like the Rubin Observatory that can find an interstellar object as it approaches the sun, and it only surveys the southern sky, and we need a copy of the Rubin Observatory in the northern sky. We don't have that, so we're missing half of the sky in terms of the alert system that we have. And the issue is this is a completely different risk because an interstellar object, moves with a very high speed. So you have to if there is a risk that it will come and collide with Earth, you have to respond very quickly. And moreover, if it's technological, you can't forecast how it will behave. So obviously we assume that all technological objects in our vicinity are human-made, but if something comes from outside the solar system, you don't know that. And that's why it opens up a completely new frontier that I actually discussed in some of my recent articles, and I call that it opens a frontier of discovery of a revolution in astronomy, where we have objects that traveled for millions or billions of years before they arrive to us, and we can learn much more about what lies in the Milky Way galaxy. We didn't have that access before, and we can, for example, get close to these objects, take a close-up photograph that will tell us if it's a rock or a spacecraft. Also, maybe land on one of them. Even if it's a rock, we can bring a sample back to Earth and study the building blocks of life to see if other stars have the same building blocks of life as the solar system. So there is a whole new frontier. I call it a revolution in astronomy that is associated with interstellar objects. And the most significant finding that we can have is of a technological object that is similar to the Voyager, Pioneer, New Horizons spacecraft that we launched out of the solar system. So another civilization may have been around for billions of years, and they had time to reach our backyard. And we should check for that and not assume that it must be very unlikely. And yeah.
I'm glad that you talked about that of Voyager, because this is very important for people to think out of the box. I often talk about this here, because if we were an alien civilization, if there's an alien civilization in other place and have the luck that to watch our Voyager, it will be alien to them, right?
Exactly.
It will be the opposite. We will be the aliens to them. And the object, the Voyager, will not move because we have no control anymore, will not move, and will not send radio communications. And it's a bit surprising to me, it draws the attention at least, that to watch people and listen people from NASA with high positions there saying that, oh, to me, to be an alien, it has to send radio communications or do some kind of extreme maneuver. But if it was Voyager, it won't do that. How
Right.
can they block?
I mean, it's really not so much just the attitude towards this subject. It's the fact that there is no major funding allocated to that. And, there is a plan to use more than $10 billion in the next 2 decades to search for the chemical fingerprints of microbes. And it just sounds to me like that's a very difficult task to find microbes on exoplanets. It's just like searching for microbes on houses in your street from the vantage point of your home. You need to develop huge instruments to look at the neighbor's house and figure out if there are microbes there. But if there is a resident, it might be much easier to detect that resident because it may come to your front door. There may be a tennis ball in your backyard that you find, or maybe even you will see a construction project in the neighbor's yard. So I'm saying it's much easier to detect intelligent products than it is to detect microbes, and we should hedge our bets and invest similar level of funding in both. So it's not just NASA in the way that it discusses the subject. It's a question of how much resources are allocated to the research, and that is really important, because if you are not seeking evidence, you will never find it. If you always insist everything is rocks, you will never know how ignorant you are. And just to give you an example, the Minor Planet Center, which is the official organization of the International Astronomical Union to catalog objects near Earth, back in January...
Hold on. The stream was done. I will reset quickly. It's just to close and... No? Hold on. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
It's frozen. We can hear. Okay, let me reset so they can... It's really quickly. Hold on. Don't go... Let's see if it refreshed. Now they will tell us. Is it okay, chat? Is it okay? Please tell me in the chat quickly so we can move on. Come back. Okay. You can. They were listening, but it was frozen. We want your face expression.
Sure. So on January 2nd, 2025, just this year, about 11 months ago, there was a report by the Minor Planet Center, which is the official body of the International Astronomical Union to catalog any object near Earth. And they officially announced a new near-Earth object, and they called it an asteroid. And then a day later, they realized that it follows the same path as the Tesla Roadster car that was launched by SpaceX in 2018. So then they realized it's not a rock, it's not an asteroid, it's a car. And the only reason they knew that is because we know about the objects that we shipped to space. Now, if this car was launched by a more accomplished space entrepreneur than Elon Musk, let's say from an exoplanet, we would never know that it's not a rock, and you will see it cataloged by the Minor Planet Center as an asteroid. And this is my basic point, that very often astronomers just assume the most likely explanation based on experience. And by the way, before 1803, it was thought that rocks do not fall from the sky. Only after a meteor shower in Liège, that was accepted when a physicist named Bayot realized, yes, rocks fall from the sky. And now the comet experts are always saying everything in the sky must be icy rocks. There is nothing else. When we know that we launched equipment to space, and we know that there are many exoplanets out there, and the billions of Earth-Sun systems from where you could have had technologies being launched to space. So I think it's just inappropriate to imagine only one possibility and dismiss and ridicule the discussion of
Yeah.
potential interstellar technological objects.
Yeah, yeah. Let me reset again because they are saying it didn't solve it quickly. Hold on. Let's see if I can. They are lovely viewers. They are saying there's no problem. We are listening and all fine, but still frozen. But okay, do not reset. Let's watch as is. Okay, never mind. They say that you are with a smiling face, so I'm happy with that. Don't worry.
Okay. So my point is that we know that we are now launching a lot of space trash and some functional devices, and we should allow others to be even more accomplished than we are. And again, it's a sense of humility, approaching the universe without assuming that we know the answers in advance, because so far we realize that we are wrong on many occasions. We are not at the center of the universe. We don't know what most of the matter in the universe is. It's not the substance that we are made of. It's called dark matter. We don't know what most of the energy in the universe is. So we don't know a lot of things. And assuming that the universe is lifeless or doesn't have intelligence as the default assumption, is just not very wise, because then you tell yourself, I don't need to check. It's an extraordinary claim that requires extraordinary evidence, and I don't invest in the search.
Yeah. And about that work that you do, that is extraordinary with the Galileo Project, you have, as far as I understand, two branches: the UAP that can be used for analyze UAP, and also to help governments, for instance, like United States government. And you have the interstellar objects branch that is independent from the other one, that study objects like 3i Atlas, Oumuamua, etc., and many more that will come with the new Vera Rubin in action. No, and can you explain, summarize a bit of that work for the future that you have, the intentions with and the goals with the Galileo Project?
Right. So with the UAP, the unidentified anomalous phenomena, we are trying to construct a number of observatories. We have already put 3, and we are expecting to get data on millions of objects in the coming year. The latest observatory, I mentioned it on the Joe Rogan podcast, was constructed in Las Vegas on the Sphere, which is an amazing place. And we have 3 units, one on the Sphere and 2 others separated by 10 kilometers. And that allows us to do triangulation, basically look at a given object in the sky from different directions and figure out its distance, velocity, acceleration. And that would allow us to figure out if the object is performing within the envelope of technological objects made by humans. And so we will go through millions of objects and try to see if there's anything extraterrestrial. If we don't find anything, so be it. And it's still a very useful exercise, because then the Department of War in the US can take advantage of the methods that we use in terms of sensors, in terms of the analysis. So it still will be useful for national security. But at the moment, we really want to figure out if there is anything anomalous, and moreover, if there is any additional activity in the months after 3i Atlas passed the closest to the sun, because that would be really interesting. And I actually encouraged NASA, another thing that I communicated to them, but hopefully they were listening, is that they should check for any unusual objects near Mars. They have the rovers, and they have the orbiter, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, so they can look if there is more activity, if there are any new objects orbiting Mars as a result of the fact that 3i Atlas came close to Mars. This is something that is easy to search for in the images. And in principle, the public can also do that as long as they share the images. We can check if there is any unusual objects that were not there before. Okay, so that would be interesting. Now, from the Galileo project, whatever we find, we will share with the public because it's a scientific project. There is no reason for us to keep it. And then there is another aspect, which is looking for materials from interstellar meteors. And I went on an expedition to the Pacific Ocean after the first interstellar meteor, and there was a Netflix documentary film made about that, and some other work that I'm doing. And the Netflix documentary should come out 2026, middle probably. And so check it out. It should be interesting for people to watch what we did there.
We will for sure. I don't have Netflix anymore for a while, but I will do it just for that documentary, I promise. And it's an exclusive fresh news here that we have, that you will and you intend to analyze during 4 months later of 3i Atlas to check on Earth the activity of UAPs. That's very important. And not only that, on Mars, but that you will not reach there, but you advised NASA and other space institutions to check whatever happens around Mars, because there could be some probes there. That's super exciting.
Right. But that's, of course, in the scenario where 3 Atlas is technological.
Yeah, of course, always.
A natural comet, you won't see anything.
Always that. We always have the hypothesis as the start. And just one more thing. You had the book in 2021, the Extraterrestrial. It was about Oumuamua. And 1 year later, 22, it was the Interstellar, right?
Yeah.
Will we have a third book now with 3i Atlas?
Well, first, there is a third book already written that I just finished a month ago, and that is about the expedition to the Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
Hopefully that will come out in 2026 along with the Netflix documentary. The publisher is MIT Press. And yes, I'm thinking about then a fourth book about the 3i Atlas. But we are still in the process of collecting data on it. So it's too early for me to start planning for that. And once the dust settles on 3i Atlas, then I can decide exactly what to put into it.
Okay. Dr. Loeb, thank you very much for being here. I hope you have the opportunity to be here with us in the future again. Sorry for this issue with the image, but it happens during live streams. But I like this raw conversation with you, so all people in the world can understand what you're really feeling about this weird object that has no tail. It still has no tail, which is also interesting.
Yeah, it was a great pleasure to join you. I really enjoyed the conversation. And my advice to everyone is stay curious, despite of what you're being told. Just stay curious.
Yeah. We'll pass the message. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.